All right, so May 2023. I really like these. I've been poking around these websites. Pretty interesting. I would recommend you take a look at it. This one's called the Cube Research. While we've been skeptical about repatriation as a notable movement, anecdotal evidence suggests that it is happening in certain pockets. Even though we still don't see cloud repatriation broadly showing in the numbers, certain examples have caught our attention. In addition, the potential impact of AI raises some interesting questions about where infrastructure should be. It should be physically located and causes us to revisit our premise that repatriation is an isolated and negligible trend. So it seems like this concept of people leaving the cloud, everyone was like, not a big deal. But then AI comes up and then everyone's like, you know what? We may want to revisit this. So this article is kind of diving a little deeper into that. In this breaking analysis, we look at a number of sources, including the experiences of 37 Signals, which has documented its departure from public clouds. We'll also examine the relationship between cloud repatriation and SRE ops skill sets. Kind of like what we were talking about last time, right? As always, we'll look at a survey data from our partners at ETR, a recent FinOps study published by Vega Cloud, and revisit the Cloud Repatriation Index, which we believe is breaking a three-year trend. Interesting, good stuff. All right. So plenty written on cloud repatriation. Many credible sources have published on the topic. So we see the cost of cloud, $1 trillion paradox. 80% of customers report cloud repatriation activities. The curious connection between cloud repatriation and SRE ops. I got to read that one. That seems interesting. At the bottom left, IDC published a report in 2018 that said over the next 2 years, users expected 50% of public cloud applications to repatriate. We found that to be an astonishingly large figure. The study was done by Michelle Bailey and Matt Eastwood, two highly respected and credible analysts. We know their work, and from what we can tell, this wasn't a sponsored study. Okay. The most discussed report continues to be somewhat controversial, but widely referenced work from Sarah Wang and Martin Casado of Andreessen Horowitz, very big VC firm. The post posited that cloud expenses would become an increasingly large component of cost of goods sold for cloud-native SaaS companies at scale. And these costs would become so dilutive to profits that it would either force repatriation or a large discount concession from cloud providers. The authors used the Dropbox case study as an example of potential savings from repatriation, where the company saved $75 million by moving infrastructure back on-prem. What's interesting about Dropbox is that it became a thing. Like it's literally like a UI on top of S3 at the beginning, and then they were like, "Peace out, Amazon. Like we're gonna like leave." Which, you know, I guess being early is definitely a benefit. How we think Snowflake is managing its cloud COGS conundrum. You'll find evidence of this COGS issue in Snowflake's 10K. In most recent March 2023 filing, there's the following note. In January 2023, we amended one of our third-party cloud infrastructure agreements, presumably AWS, effective February 1st, 2023. Under the amended agreement, we have committed to spend an aggregate of at least $2.5 billion from fiscal 2024 to fiscal 2028 on cloud infrastructure services. Wow. And Snowflake is contractually obligated to pay any difference between the commitment and what they use during that term. Sounds horrendous, right? 2.5 billion? I wonder how much Snowflake is making. That is wild. But as you read on, you'll find this tidbit, okay? The remaining cancelable purchase commitments under the agreement prior to January 2023 amendment, the aggregate amount of which was $732 million as of January 31st, 2023, is not reflected in the table above, as the company is no longer required to fulfill such commitments. Wow. So 2 points here that we've made before and will reiterate. The last notation is an indication that Snowflake has renegotiated its contract with AWS and retired $732 million from its previous committed spend, ostensibly to get a large discount. Thus far, the quid pro quo has been you buy more, we'll give you a break so you can manage cloud COGS, and this will likely continue indefinitely. Yeah, but like how many companies have that kind of leverage? We see the same trend happening with the broader customer base, where buyers are locking into longer terms with saving plans but committing to a specific spend amount. The second point relates to Dropbox. Dropbox is a bad example of repatriation, in our opinion, because you cannot build a third-party object storage service on top of S3 and make money. Literally, that's literally just what I said. As David Friend, CEO of Wasabi, or Glenn Budman, the founder and CEO of Blackface, two companies with object storage offerings, they will confirm this. Yeah, like they built all the hype around literally just being a UI on top of S3, and then when it got too expensive, like, peace out, we're gonna go do this on-prem, and they still benefited from all, like, with what they got from being on AWS. So while it might make sense to do some things on-prem, such as what Zscaler or CrowdStrike, as was reported by Wang and Cassetto, so far repatriation from SaaS companies like Datadog and Snowflake has not been a factor. Yeah, so it looks like what these companies are going to prefer to do is, I'm not going to leave the cloud, but I'm definitely going to leverage whatever I can so I can get a better deal, which makes sense. You got to think, like, if you're at like a scale of like a Datadog, or the scale of like a Snowflake, like, moving on prem has got to be crazy expensive. Especially Snowflake has definitely still like seeing growth, 100%. Datadog too. Let's not call final victory for cloud just yet. Lori McVitie put out an interesting post late last year describing the relationship between site reliability engineering skills and cloud repatriation. Her point was not that SRE causes repatriation, rather that SRE skills makes it easier for companies to operate on-prem infrastructure using a cloud operating model. She cited an F5 report that showed a significant jump from 2021 to 2022 in customers repatriating apps, and she asked the right question. It's not whether repatriation happened. We know it does. The question is what percentage of workloads are actually moving back. It doesn't appear to be 50% based on data we have, but her point is that many more customers today have SRE ops capabilities, are in a better position to repatriate if there's a business case. This literally is what I was talking about in the end of the Cloud Engineer article, where I'm telling you that ops roles, and then, you kind of, companies are kind of moving towards this platform engineering concept, and they have sysadmin, network admin, SREs, DevOps engineers, those type of people, all with cloud skills. That way, if they're working hybrid, if they're working on-prem, if they're working whatever model they have the people with the skills to do so. If they're all on cloud, yeah, guess what? All those people can work with cloud. So that the role of the dedicated, cloud engineer, where does that sit when everyone knows cloud? The 37 Signals sovereign cloud story. DHH is the co-founder of 37 Signals, a much admired software company with popular products like Basecamp and did they misspell this on purpose? He published a couple of posts on the company's departure from cloud, and he used this term sovereign cloud as an alternative to private cloud or on-prem. VMware has used this term for years, as has Cube analyst and colleague David Nicholson. The implication is cross-cloud and hybrid services are merging that will require control planes which live outside of a limited number of public clouds. Moreover, according to Nicholson, at the end of the day, it's all IT, implying that the off-prem and on-prem worlds are converging and reaching a state of quasi-equilibrium. Now, one of the biggest comments I saw was a lot of people saying, like, yeah, cloud is sort of becoming kind of just like a staple, so of course other roles are going to just kind of like suck it in and absorb the skill set. And that makes sense. Look at here. It all says off-prem and on-prem worlds are converging and reaching a state of quasi-equilibrium. I don't know how I would love to just dive deeper and kind of look more into what that actually looks like right now. But yeah, just from like, kind of like just paying attention to trends, like it'd be kind of obvious that, like, yeah, cloud is a thing. Like, it's just like, you don't need to even discuss like, oh, is cloud gonna become mainstream or not? It's mainstream, but now it's at a point where like everyone kind of needs to know it. So remember, 37 Signals are well-known iconoclasts and anti-establishment types, but their economic argument is nonetheless sound. Specifically, that renting infrastructure for a mid-sized firm like 37 Signals is more expensive today than when they were starting out with new products in the cloud. The other key point aligns with Lori McVitie's premise that skills overlap between what it takes to run software in the cloud versus on-premise, 80-90% correlated. Oh my goodness. See, the more I read this stuff, and these are people who do this for a living, I just kind of look into trends, like, because I've asked to my leadership to be more involved with interviewing and stuff like that. And I look at trends to kind of see what's asked of candidates and like kind of see how hiring is done with other companies and stuff like that. So I just pay attention. It's kind of like a hobby I do on the side. But these people who actually like do these analysis as a living, they're saying here that the skills overlap between what it takes to run software in the cloud, aka the cloud engineer, versus on-prem is 80 to 90% correlated. So once again, this stuff is going to be adopted by other roles. With some differences, of course. You don't need FinOps and forensics accounting to understand your cloud bills. And you have to maintain equipment, patch servers, worry about physical security, replace failures, etc. Yeah, this was a big thing that we were trying to kind of talk about when we were talking about like the DHS company leaving. Was like, what about all this stuff of like maintaining equipment, patching servers, worrying about physical security, all that good stuff? Because it takes a really well-established team, like really talented team to do that. I don't think every single company has a team that could do that, could pull that off and then just cut straight back to like, okay, we're getting off the cloud, we're going on-prem. We don't need to worry about upskilling because everyone handles it, has the skills to do it. DHH claims that these differences are minor and easier than learning Kubernetes. I don't know about that. Do you think that's like easier than learning Kubernetes? I just think it's like a different skill set. And these are things that these are only things that kind of obvious. There's got to be like some skills in and out that we're not pointing out. That are stuff that people have to learn. Maybe so, but many or so mid-sized companies don't have the developer talent of 37 Signals and would rather invest elsewhere. Oh, I literally just said that too. Back to the future. Below is a picture of the 37 Signals sovereign cloud. Not gonna lie, looks pretty cool. Apples and oranges, so much abstraction. Yeah, I feel like it's not fair to say it's easier than learning Kubernetes because it's like how do you even compare that? Yeah. Anyway, how widespread is this trend? Let's take a look at the data and see if there's any evidence of repatriation. Our friends we kind of just took a look at this. What do they call it? PTI, repatriations index here. And this is up to 2022. We looked at this, right? In the chart above, he plots the growth rates of the big three cloud players against those of Equinix and Digital Reality. And in the upper right, we show FTSE's, which is the author repatriation index, which takes the revenue of the two leading colos and divides, I think that says, colos and divides by AWS's cloud revenue. The blue line in the upper right has been on a steady downward trend for 3 years. Yeah. But you'll notice in the chart below, the growth rates based on 2022 projections are converging. So that flattening repatriation curve is likely upticking the way it was back in the early 2020s. We'll keep an eye on that because both colocation players are forecasting strong revenue growth. Equinix guide is for 14 to 15% revenue growth, which could exceed AWS's growth rate. Digital Reality is expected to grow revenue slightly below Equinix, but in the low teens. So combined, they're converging with the growth rates of AWS. So based on the likely new Rev of Charles repatriation MAC, we'll likely see some convergence. So the question is, what is the primary method that your organizations plan to use to achieve the decrease in IT spending in 2023 Q2, so last year, versus 2022 Q2 cited in the previous question? So it looks like the majority of people, in order to save money in IT, are going to delay or stop new projects. 23% people, I guess survey participants responded with delay or stop new projects. 20% reduce staffing costs, so then layoffs. Reduce consulting spending, then lay off your consultants. Reduce hardware spending, then stop letting your employees get new laptops every year. Consolidate redundant vendors across business units. This should have been doing that anyway, 9%. 7%, so kind of like in the middle, reduce excess cloud resources. 6%, optimize SaaS licensing. 3% other. 2% reduce workflow and consumption services and tools. 1% said, I'm not sure. The 1% I'm not sure is like, what are you doing? You probably have this 6-figure CTO job and you're like, I don't know. Q3, how have those concerns impacted your IT approach? Select all that apply. And it looks like the majority were more closely monitoring all IT related costs. And then we're evaluating new service providers for most cost-effective options. And then this one seems to be bigger. We're actively exploring ways to cut IT costs. And then these two are even. We're cutting back on IT staff and external IT resources. We're funding fewer projects and cutting back on existing projects, and then non-applicable. Some people are doing well, I guess, here. Somewhat consistent with the ETR data, we see staff cuts, project delays, vendor acknowledgements, but no specific evidence of repatriation. Database is the biggest surprise in cloud cost overages. Wow. One notable call out in the Vega survey was the question about which line items, this is going to be good, on the cloud bill were given them the most heartburn from overages relative to expectations. So keep your eyes peeled, people. This might be, if you can become in one of these sections, the one probably which has the most overages, you can become an expert and that's your niche, then you can go to a company and be like, hey, I know how to save you money. So let's see. Compute, no, the most database. And then after that, bandwidth, networking, databases, storage after that, compute, container, serverless lower, interesting, other platform as a service, and then others, nothing here. All right, people, database, learn how to optimize database and networking, and storage is kind of in there as well. Compute, save people money in these areas, and getting hired. Repatriation or not, hybrid is the dominant model. Oh, I started this conversation by saying this. The last bit of ETR data we'll look at is from a survey on cloud adoption relative to on-prem. And despite little evidence of repatriation, 80 to 85 of orgs remain hybrid. Okay, so let's take a look at this. What is or will be your company's usage share between public versus private cloud for the following timeframes? And response distribution today and in 3 years. So today, they're highlighting this one. 100% public / 0% private, and it's 14%. Wow. 61% of respondents have the majority of workloads on-prem today. It drops to 42% in 3 years. Only 14% of the organizations are all in on public cloud. That figure is expected to remain flat in the future. There it is. I know there's a lot of people who are like, again, in the cloud engineer video, the end of the cloud engineer, everyone was like, cloud is only going up. Cloud consumption is expected to exceed blah, 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 blah. And then here we have something that said that cloud, the figures expect to remain flat in the future. 61% of respondents cite the majority of the usage is on-prem today. So that means that 40% have most of the work being done in the cloud, which makes you question the claim that 90% of all workloads are on-prem today. The 61% figure drops to 42 in 2 years, but the real call out stat to us was that only 14% of customers say that they are all in on public cloud and that is expected to remain flat over the next 2 years. And I think that's probably like, did they say the type of customers? That's got to be like startups. So first, if there's repatriation happening at a large scale, it's not clear from these numbers. The second point is the picture is crystal clear. Hybrid is the dominant model for the foreseeable future. That's it, people. You heard it here first. How will AI impact infrastructure choices? AI is very expensive to run. 100%. Like you think about like more AI usage happens, the more that stuff grows, the more job security, even though I think it's a myth, but the more job security people who work with data centers have. Right. Where are OpenAI servers located? Many HPC workloads are well suited for on-prem, showing off local supercomputing facilities. Renting is the best option for short burst dev, unpredictable demand, plus 50,000 cores, likely better economics on-prem. Interesting. 50,000 cores, likely better economics on-prem. Legit concerns about IP leakage. AI inference will mostly occur at the edge. First of all, foundation models like GPT are a tide that will lift all compute and infrastructure boats in our opinion. Automation combined with massive compute and data requirement will enable / require greater spending on server storage and networking. That's what I said. Because think about it. You need more and more power, more and more service to create all abstractions, but especially now with AI. This is a batting practice for AI. The game will be played at the edge and in the world around us. Adaption and inferencing do not favor centralized model, e.g. public cloud. So if there's an AI service that comes out that kind of is like, have AI at the edge, right? Where you have, what's the Azure Edge service? I can't remember what it's called. Right, but whatever. Well, yeah, AI at the edge. This person is saying that that's most likely going to be the most popular and more cost-effective solution instead of like leveraging, I guess, AI in the cloud or public cloud. We agree AI inferencing is going to explode at the edge, not in today's public cloud. And now how the public cloud players approach this will be interesting with autonomous vehicles, robots, satellites, and other edge infrastructure. Yes, we're smacking GPT balls out of the park before the first inning has even started. Let the games begin and we'll see what happens. And fascinating. Lots of fascinating insights here, people.